Hey, everybody, welcome to the Lost and Found Ministry podcast. We are recording live here in Semple Studios. I'm Clint Marker.
I'm Dave Garza.
I'm Dave Schneider.
Or Dave Schneider or Dave Garza.
Yep.
There's two Daves here.
Two Daves.
Either way, we're all here.
Daving it up.
We're Daving
all
it
right,
up.
guys, so what we're here to do today is we're here to talk about Dave Garza's testimony.
Uh-oh.
All right, so this is going to be a 44-part series.
Oh, man.
I thought it was 45.
666-part series.
You guys, my life is not that. Whoa.
So it all started on August 15th, 1956.
Right.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
56.
I know, man.
I know,
I'm
you're not that old. I just
Right.
said whatever date came to mind.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
so anyway, so we're here to talk about your story, Dave.
My story.
And so I feel the very first question should be, how do you start this off?
I know.
Yeah, so kind of give us the breakdown of your life story. So just start wherever you feel God is leading and has led your story to start, and we'll just kind of go from there and ask questions. As
Absolutely, man. This is going to be interesting. I've actually had the opportunity to share my testimony many times, and it's always terrible, as you guys probably know, because people are like, hey, will you give your testimony for about 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah, but you were seriously concerned. Like, man, you told like a 4-part series
I know.
of like 70 hours
Yeah, I
worth
can't.
of testimony. It's like, yeah, well, you get the same opportunity.
Yeah,
here.
talking about myself that much, man, it's just hard. It's just, you told it so, like, the storytelling was like articulately
Very
approached, and like,
you guys hold me to way too high of a standard.
hey,
on
we're
this
not the
one.
only ones, man. All the listeners enjoyed it. Like,
yeah,
don't
it
know.
was good.
I don't
mean,
know.
like I would have had some popcorn and a soda. Like, man, just keep talking, brother. I'll
Yeah.
listen to your story. All right.
All right. So how does this start,
Right,
Dave?
so you started
All
in
right.
Japan, right?
Listen, it was 1913. It was just a couple years after the Titanic went down. I swam to shore. No.
Wow, that's a great story.
Isn't it? Isn't it? That's why I'm so pale. I'm a polar bear. I swam past the glaciers.
Explains a lot.
That salt water did a number to you, huh?
All right. I'm the reason Casper was written.
Ah.
All right. So anyway, all right.
Oh, right.
All right, guys. So, all right. Well, I mean, we're just going to just start off. All right. I was born in the year of 1984. I was actually supposed to be born in 85, but I was a couple months premature. And if you know me personally, you know that I have some really messed up eyes. My eyes are, I've got constant movement in my eyes, and a lot of that's due to the premature birth. You know, back in the 80s, it wasn't like it is today. You know, a kid can be born like 4.5, 5 months premature and end up just fine.
Right.
You know, clearly I didn't end up just fine.
Yeah, well.
You know, it's all right. It makes me special. Just ignore
Yeah.
the twitch.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I mean, just to say, just starting off, man, it's Satan kind of had it out for me and my mother. After I was born, I had a lot of health issues. I think she had said for quite some time I was in the ICU. They couldn't get me to. I was malnutrition. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't accept food. I was very sick. Things did not look good. And then on top of that, my mom got really sick. The birth was horrible for her. So just right off the bat, you know, Satan just trying to jump in against my family and against my life. And so growing up, though, you know, when I was about the age of 4, like I said, being premature and I've had the eye issues, they started noticing that, like, my eyes were so blue. And just say, like, the baby pictures, it's kind of crazy. Like, my eyes almost look transparent. I'm not kidding. Like, They were so crystal blue. And what it is they finally discovered that I was born with a very rare eye condition called linked ocular albinism and nystagmus. And what that is so...
Sounds like...
Yeah, to break all this down for you guys.
Oh, that one.
That one.
Yeah.
That one. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? So we don't need to talk about it?
All right.
No, what it is, okay, so in your eye, you have a pigment in the back of your eye. You guys been to the eye doctor, of course, right?
I got a pig in the back of my eye.
There is.
Okay.
Yes, it's not Charlotte's Web or what's his name?
Anyway.
Wilbur. Anyway, so in the back of your Marker's over here trying to hold it together. Anyway, so in the back of your eye, if you've been to the eye doctor, they'll take images of your eyes.
Right.
And of course, it's not like you don't see the retina, you don't see the colorful part of the eye. It's like a bloody red looking image. Okay, that is the pigment in your eye. All right. I was born without the pigment in my eye. All right. And so what happens is the pupil actually moves and bounces the more light there is to block the muscles in my eyes from being hit with the direct light.
Oh.
It's a defense mechanism. It's my pupils are trying to protect my eyes.
Right.
And so that's where the movement comes from. You'll notice if I'm really tired, they'll shake like crazy, dude. And the more light, the brighter the room, the more my eyes shake. So that's been a struggle, and they figured this out. My dad and my grandfather actually took me to Iowa City when I was 4, and from what I'm told, my dad and my grandfather were not exactly the nicest guys, because they went in and saw this top eye specialist, all right, and told my dad and my grandpa that I'd never drive, that they needed to immediately have me put on disability because I'd never drive, I'd never go to school, a normal school, you know, I wouldn't be able to do anything. They wanted me to immediately start learning Braille. And I know this for a fact because I have packets that my mom has given me that she kept from when I was a kid, man. And they did. They immediately were like, nope, he's going to be full on blind. Sorry about your luck.
Wow.
Enjoy. Apparently my dad didn't take that very well. Apparently him and my grandpa pretty much told the doctor, some not so Christian words about where he could put his opinion. And so going on in life, they ended up finding just one good step was they found a doctor in Texas Children's Hospital, Dr. Von Orden, a German doctor, who was the only doctor in the world who was qualified to operate on my eyes. So they took me down and started getting some hope. They noticed that after the surgeries, there was some control. The eyes quit moving as much, but we started falling into this pattern of where we figured out about 1.5 years, 2 years after the surgery, the eyes were shaky and weak again. And so inevitably what's happening is they did muscle reconstructive surgery on my eyes, and they would tighten the muscles because they were worn down. Think about it like a rubber band. If you take a rubber band and you stretch it and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it and stretch it,
right.
After you do
eventually it's going to break.
That's right. It's going to break and it sags. There's no, what would you call it? There's no tenacity to it.
Right.
There's no tension to it.
Is it elasticity?
Elasticity. Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you. I would have never, Anyway, I was searching for it, couldn't find it. So then we would have to go about every 2 years to repeat the surgery. Okay.
Man, that had to get real super expensive after a while.
Oh, dude.
You're seeing this specialist guy in Texas, not to mention the drive from Iowa to Texas.
And young.
Right.
And young, and you're, wow, okay, so...
Yeah, and where they actually, not to gross anyone out, it really was a very intense surgery. They would remove the eye to get to the muscle, and... So then when I can remember when I was little, man, waking up from surgery, you know, it felt like I had glass in my eyes. I couldn't have
really dry.
Oh, dude.
Like real dry.
Yeah, like, oh, here, let's put the ocean in your eyeball. Thank you. And here's the cool part. I do remember like going back to school after, you know, it took a couple weeks where they'd send me back to school.
Could you slap the back of your head and have your eye pop out or anything?
I wish, but what actually happened was I would have a discharge of blood out of my eyes. So I would randomly have blood tears come out of my eyes, and the whites of my eyes were blood red. So everybody at school thought that was super cool.
That's like stigmata stuff right there, dude. That's like a horror story.
Yeah, I'll have to see if we can dig up some pictures, man.
Good Lord, I don't know if I want to see him.
Did this ever happen around Halloween?
Yes, that's when we just put some horns on each side of my head. I was a little ginger kid anyway, so I didn't need to wear red. But yeah, it just all worked out in my favor. Anyway, but you know, in the midst of this, as you said, you know, just to kind of segue out of that was just a major struggle that I still to this day I struggle with. You know, with my vision as I'm getting older, yes, there's some progressive vision loss that's going to happen. I mean, if God decides to heal me, he'll heal me, you know, but other than that, that's not my focus. But in the midst of all of this as a child, you know, I grew up with a great childhood. I really did. My dad, you said, you know, expenses of all this, you know, praise God. My father, being probably one of the hardest working men I've ever met in my life, always worked his butt off to make sure we had great insurance, to make sure that these things could happen. Because I've seen the bills, dude.
I can't imagine that this was something that was real cheap to do.
Dude. Dude, I know the surgeries alone were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, considering there's one specialist surgeon
that's what I was thinking.
in the world that can do this.
Like, where else are you going to go?
That's right. Well, doctor. And I had two of them there in Texas, and then I ended up having two more done, and because Dr. Von Orden retired, because, I mean, when I saw him when I was 4 or 5 or 6, somewhere in there, I mean, he was like 80 years old then.
Right.
So so he ended up retiring, and I ended up going to Dr. Momini at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Right.
And prestigious medical hospital.
Right.
And anyway.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's and but anyway, so yeah, you know, my father and my mother growing up, you know, Mom, I think Dad had a hydraulic business of his own before he went to Pirelli Armstrong. That's where the Titan Tire in Des Moines used to be Pirelli Armstrong.
So what was the business of that place? Was it tires like Titan Tire?
Yeah, Pirelli Armstrong. Yeah, it was a tire factory. And my dad went to college for hydraulics and couplings. And there's not a lot of people out there that did that.
Right.
So he got a great job making good money.
Yeah, that's
you
really
know,
good.
And because, you know, there just wasn't a lot of people who did it. You know, so anyway, so, you know, that was always cool. And he just really provided. And like I said, my childhood was great, guys, aside from that. I mean, we had, you know, the whole world was telling me I was going to be blind. I couldn't do all this. You know, I started off playing t-ball, you know, and they figured out I had a knack for baseball. Was real good at it. Riding 3-wheelers at my grandparents' farm, you know, never hit a tree. So clearly I could see. At least I don't think I hit a tree.
Not on purpose.
Not that you can
not
remember.
on purpose. Yeah, not that I could remember. Maybe
you didn't ever wear a helmet either. So
no, this was before all this.
Safety didn't exist until I had kids.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Safety did not exist, and not everybody was a winner. You had to work for it. Anyway.
So 3-wheelers.
So yeah,
baseball.
man, you know, I mean, clearly there were things going on that showed that they were wrong, you know, and all of this, just to start off with, you know, saying that my entire life, I do not recollect the time I was not in church. My grandparents on both sides, the Garzas and the Taylors, my grandfather, David Garza Sr., has been a part of the Catholic Church, as far as I know, his whole life, or most of his life, you know. So like anytime I went to Grandma and Grandpa Garza's, we were going to church. We were going down to St. Ambrose Cathedral downtown. Anytime I was at Grandma and Grandpa Taylor's, I was going to First Church of the Open Bible. And was, you know, raised in this. And never knew a time. I can't recollect the time I wasn't involved in church. So being prayed for, you know, I can remember Pastor Ken Gruen of Open Bible when I was real little, you know, going up and being prayed over and the whole church praying over me. I can remember going to the Catholic Church and the whole church praying over me. So there was no lack of God. Okay.
Right. So I just want to I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
So like the Catholic Church and then the very Pentecostal charismatic church.
Yes.
That's a really heavy swing.
Yes, I was.
So how did you deal with, I mean, like, what was the thought I'm sure that both sides had its benefits.
Yes, absolutely, man.
Can you talk a bit about what those benefits were?
Yeah, I can remember, you know, being a little confused, you know, like, oh man, I go to Grandma and Grandpa Taylor's church, and man, you know, we're singing, we're praising God. Everything was a little different, you know.
Right. Yes.
And it wasn't so formal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, this of course was still in the time where women had to wear long dresses, and every man in church wore a suit and tie. Of course, things have changed. Praise God.
You still wear a suit and tie.
I do. Yes, I do, because I was raised in it, and it just, I like to take that opportunity, but it's a vast difference from where I was a few years ago, and we'll get there. But
we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. But, the benefits of it was, in the Catholic Church, my grandparents, and I'll give this to both sides, never once was there a David, don't listen to them because they're wrong. Never was it a David, you can't go there.
It's like we're both on the same team here.
Yes. Yeah. So even before we got to this being progressive thing in the world, where we're starting to break down some of these denominational barriers, I got to give it to my grandparents, man. No matter what, I was in church. And the focus was Jesus Christ. Always. And I was never forced. I ever. And they both built each other up. So I got to give it to them. Like I said, my grandparents are all amazing people.
You mean to tell me that you went through your whole childhood and was never forced to go to church?
Oh, no. Hang on. Let me clarify.
I'm just trying to say.
That's impressive.
That is impressive.
Let me clarify.
They did a great job with
I was forced to go. I didn't have an option. Okay. Okay. This was back when parents took authority over their bratty children.
Right.
Sorry about that, but that's the truth. And, but yes, I mean, I was forced to go, but it was never like, no, you can't go there more than here.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
It opened Bible when I was a kid, man. I was a part of King's Kids. I don't know if anybody out there listening remembers this, but that's
before my time.
Yeah. I don't know. King's Kids was awesome, dude. That was the thing. It's long before Clint's time. He's still in the youth time.
Yeah,
right.
But man, it was, we'd go and do that. But I was also so grateful to just be like, even at the Catholic Church, man, number one, St. Ambrose Cathedral is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful.
Right.
If you've never been in there.
Most Catholic churches are very beautiful places.
And I remember being a kid looking up at the walls and everything like, wow. I could
stained glass.
Oh, dude. Yes.
So pretty.
Yes. And the organ that's like the size of the church, And anyway, and
there's a lot to say for tradition, man.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. I mean, we as Pentecostals, charismatic people don't necessarily view that.
No.
But I feel like, the Catholic Church and like the Lutheran Church still live their lives in kind of that tradition. Like tradition is very important in that circle from what I've come to understand, we're not getting rid of tradition.
No,
here.
That's right. And I'll tell you, just to throw some benefits out there, man, the Catholic Church taught me to be disciplined in prayer.
Right.
It taught me to always go and get down on my knees and talk to God.
Right.
It didn't matter where you were, didn't matter what was going on, you did it.
Right.
And so the discipline side for sure came out of my Catholic my Catholic side of my family.
Right on.
And I appreciate that,
Sure.
and
right.
and it, and then the Pentecostal side pushed me to have that deep, intense relationship with Christ.
Right.
So, man, you smash that together, and by people bringing me up correctly, and not making it a theological debate,
right,
over whose way
right,
is better.
who's
That's
wrong,
right. And they might have had these arguments, but I don't know. They never did it in front of me.
Right.
Well,
that's
it's
good.
almost like they kind of let you
figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was never pushed or pulled one other way, man.
Right.
So I grew up with God all over my life. And, I was the youngest of 5. I got 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. We all grew up in the same home together.
That explains a lot too.
It's where I get my brattiness. Because I'm the youngest.
Yeah, dude.
But trust me, I didn't get what I wanted.
Your parents loved you more than...
Yeah. No, I think they were ready to punch out by the time I came along. But
so you were the youngest out of you have
out
2
of 5.
older,
Yep.
You got 2 older brothers.
And my older brothers are not way older. I'm trying to think. I think, Christopher, I think he's 46, just turned 46. Brian is probably just turning 45. They're like a year and a day apart.
Okay.
And then my sister Amy, she's down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Well, Chris is here in town with us. I get to see him and talk to him on a regular basis. That's cool. Brian is now in Colorado Springs, I believe, or outside of Colorado Springs. Real outdoorsy. Last I knew, he ran does like guide stuff out in the mountains and stuff. Pretty cool stuff.
That is kind of cool.
My sister Amy, the next oldest, she's, I believe, 42. You guys, if I'm getting your ages wrong, it's whatever. We'll fight about it later. But I think I'm pretty close. And Amy's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She moved down there with the guy she married, Michael. And they are way active in their church. My sister's an amazing singer. She's just got a beautiful voice, and Michael's way, and they both were on the same path towards God.
Right. That's good.
Yeah. So that's great. And then my other sister, Angela, is out in North Carolina. She's, same way, still in church. All of us were raised in church, man. We were all raised with the same upbringing. So I had a good childhood, man. Lots of sports, huge family. Okay. I think I'm one grandchild out of 28 grandchildren.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So like holidays, legitimately, we were all at the farm. Don't know how grandma and grandpa survived that. But it was a farm. So we could get kicked out in the barn. And
how were you with your brothers and sisters? Would you say that you guys were close when you were kids? Would you say that you fought all the time? Like,
man, growing up,
I know a sibling rivalry happens.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Christopher being the oldest, and we'll get to this as we get down in the story a little more. It always cracked me up because growing up, just to be honest, me and my oldest brother, Chris, we didn't really have much of a relationship. I was like the bratty little brother, and he was the mature older one. He wanted me out of his way, and I wanted to run and break his stuff. So we never vied, you know what I mean?
Works out.
But the cool part was, like, when it came to playing baseball, we'd go out and play some ball. We'd play catch. Right. He loved playing football because he could smash me into the ground, and I got the chance to throat punch him when I got it, when I could, and stuff like that. But me and my brother Brian were, as a child, we were close.
Okay.
He was always cool. He was always take his little brother with him places, Right. I can remember him having one of his first cars, man. He had a Camaro, and I just thought he was like the coolest dude. It was like, 1992, 93, and my brother's driving me around in his Camaro blaring rock music, and
right.
Like I felt like the cool kid, and so him and I always had a great relationship.
What did rock music sound like in the 1950s?
That was good.
Anyway.
One for the money, two for the show. Not that old.
You guys are almost the same age, right?
Let's just be clear. Schneider's a year and a half older than I am.
All right. Anyway, you'll get those diapers back in a few years.
He's working on 41. I'm working on 39. So let's be clear on that. Right. But anyway, so me and Brian were close. Me and my sister Amy, love my sister to death, but we never had like a close relationship. Right. It wasn't a bad relationship. It was just never close.
It was just, yeah.
Right. And that was the hard part growing up in my family was each and every one of us were involved. Okay. Like both of my sisters were in gymnastics. They were in dance. They were in a list of stuff. Amy got into playing basketball, and, she did gymnastics and sang, and Angela was big into gymnastics, way over Amy. Like that was Angie's thing. But me and Angela were very close. Always have been, that's just, I don't know, maybe it's just being the two youngest, right. Cause we're like a year and a half apart, almost 2 years, I believe. And we just always, we could hang out, watch movies. We could go do this. We did this stuff together,
right.
And that's so all in all good relationships.
Right. Yeah. Not horrible.
Right.
But,
right. Not horrible, like I said, but for the most part, the closest was with Brian and Angela. Just being honest, that's, when we were kids. And childhood was real great, man. And then, didn't get in a whole lot of trouble. I was your typical, I was a boy, If I saw something, I'd probably break it. You
can do that naturally.
I am good at breaking stuff.
Yeah.
I love to throw dirt I love to go climb trees and see how far I could fall before I broke something. Spend the day at the creek. You know, that's just how I was raised. We weren't raised to sit in front of a TV. Wasn't allowed. Not happening. You know, raised on good farm cooking. Mom can cook like a beast. She learned from grandma who can outbeast mom. And so, yeah, that's where I get the back fat over here. That's good old country cooking.
Sure. That's what we'll call it.
But, you know, great childhood anyway. And just, you know, kind of a normal 1980s, 1990s childhood, man. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, we rode our bikes. We had fun. We didn't sit in front of TVs. We actually were active. Right.
We had one phone in the house.
We had one phone that was mounted to the wall with a cord on it. I know you kids out there like, what? Yes,
even I had
they had
that
cords.
For a while.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah,
wow.
I did. Yeah,
That's impressive.
We had phones with cords.
Was it rotary?
No,
it
wasn't.
No?
It's the click on the wall, like Sarah.
Get off of the phone.
Are you sure you had a phone, or was it a Morse code machine?
Right, yeah.
it was smoke signals. We would light candles in the backyard.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, so, you know, just a normal life. And then things started getting a little rough. When I was about 11, my folks divorced. Mom and dad things were kind of rough there. You know, I don't remember a whole lot of what or why, and not really my business. That was their relationship, you know, granted they're mom and dad, but still, you know, your child is not, that's none of my business, you know, still to this day. I don't care to know why or reasons or point fingers. And cool part is going through that, my parents never did that either. You know, I didn't hear dad say, "Oh, your mother this," and I didn't hear mom say, "Oh, your father this."
Right.
You know, clearly animosity there, but they never poured it out on us kids. You know,
they showed you like one of the big things with kids. I can imagine, because my wife's kind of gone through this a little bit, but you know, like, is this my fault?
Right.
You know, they kind of answer that question without even having to address it.
That's right. Yes.
They don't know, because this isn't it's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
So we don't have to do that for them. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And so, you know, I did, you know, take some accountability on it. You know, I wasn't that kid where I, like, you know, all of a sudden, boo-hoo, this happened to me, you know, which is okay. I'm not putting that down. You know, having your parents split up, people take that differently, and it's tough.
Right.
I remember it being tough, but I don't remember it being like devastating.
Right.
You know, I always tried to look at the positive. I'm like, dude, 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays. All right. You know,
a lot of presents.
You know, and I got a room at dad's house and I got a room at mom's house. Right. Sweet. I get twice the junk, you know, which was not true. They humbled me on that one. But, you know, so folks split up and I stayed with mom for, about 2 years. And in that 2 years, it wasn't so much that I was like out getting in like criminal trouble. I started screwing off school. You know, I got to the point where I was like, man, I don't have to do this. I'm going to go to dad's this weekend, or, you know, I don't have to do, why do I need to do this? You know, so I think that's probably where it affected me subconsciously, was I kind of got in that, whatever, I don't care mentality, you know, and things started going downhill, and not just at school, but at home. You know, I began to the point where I really fighted. Wow, Dave,
Fought.
That's a vocabulary's on point. I was fighted, mamas. And I started fighting, you know, going to church. You know, I can remember this starting to happen, and I remember Grandpa Taylor, man, bless his heart, like my best friend ever. Miss my grandfather, but I remember him picking me up one time, and I didn't want to go. And I remember having that woodshed talk with Grandpa. And Grandpa was not the type, never once did he ever raise his voice. Like, I cannot recollect Grandpa ever raising his voice.
It's one of those deals, like, I never raised my voice, so that when I do, you know it's real.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, man. And, well, his tone.
Right.
He never had to be loud. But both of my grandfathers. Oh, good Lord. Grandpa Garza's a big man. If he would have ever yelled at me, I probably would have peed my pants. Like, I'm not kidding. He's a big man. And just carried authority with him. And a lot of it's that spiritual authority, you know? And I respected my grandparents big time.
Yeah.
You didn't so much as, I would never act out of line in front of them because I knew I'd be going home and get my butt whooped. If Grandpa said, oh, David did this, yeah, me and Dad are going to be having a coming to Jesus moment when I go home.
Right.
And I just never wanted to disrespect them, but I remember Grandpa picking me up, and I remember cruising down the road and just having this talk with him where he just, you know, he was always kind of funny with words and the way he would say things, you know. I mean, the most I ever heard the man cuss in my life was he would get frustrated and jiggle his keys in his pocket and say, crime in Italy. That's how much of a godly man my grandfather was.
To be fair, you never heard him smack his finger with a hammer.
That's true. I never witnessed Grandpa smack his finger with a hammer. I know that's a hard one to be spiritual about.
That's right.
But, you know, I can remember him picking me up and having a talk with him and him just telling me, you know, I'm sorry for what's going on, you know, and this is the path you're headed down if you try not to go to church, you know, and he did everything he could to keep me in church. And so that really stood out to me. And I remember really giving it a shot. Like, okay, keep picking me up on Sundays, keep picking me up on Wednesdays. We're going to keep doing this, you know, but at this point I was right at about 13 years old and started really getting this rebellious mentality, started fighting in school a lot. I figured out I could throw my fists really well. Not a good thing. And, you know, I had no fear. I was always that kid that would, you know, oh, sure. I mean, clearly the fear thing still doesn't exist. I'm happy to jump out of a plane with Clint.
That's,
you know,
a whole new level.
But that became a problem, dude. 13-year-old boy thinks he's tough, thinks he can't get hurt. Like I didn't. I just had that. Sure, punch me in the head. You ain't gonna hurt my head. I got a big dome. If you see me in person, I got a 10-pound water head. All right. I got a big head. All right. And I just had this thought that I was just 10 foot tall and cojones of steel and
bulletproof.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. So this started to go way bad. At 13, I remember I finished the school year and Mom and Dad gave me a great surprise. I was going to be spending the next 10 weeks of summer at Whitworth Military Academy in Lexington, Missouri.
This sounds like a great experience.
Man.
So things started to go bad. Was this a way to try and mitigate you going completely off the rails? Or
yes,
was there
this was an attempt.
A specific thing that happened?
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. I hadn't really been in trouble with the law. Nothing like that. I think like one time, you know, I was out throwing rocks and breaking windows at a junkyard outside Altoona one time. And luckily, you know, we grew up out there, man. And local cop took me home instead of throwing me in Meyer Hall. You know, like
he didn't send you to juvie.
No, he was like, I'll take you to your father. I know he'll handle you better than juvie. Yeah. And we believed in discipline. And, you know, so this was really the first big stretch to kind of keep me from going south. It was this summer program, which involved school. It wasn't just a go and make you run all summer type thing. They taught you how to march, how to do all that stuff, how to maintain your room. Just, you know, it was like a JROTC, you know. Okay. And but with school,
was there specific branches of this? Like, is it
Wentworth is the one that was Army based. Okay. In the future, we'll talk about the next one. Yes, there's more. Right. But we really found out, you know, this was an attempt to straighten me out, but we did figure out in this point that I responded to structure because, you know, I was having all these problems at home, and then I go to this military academy for this program, and they're like, yeah, David's doing amazing. He likes the physicalness. Dude, we did like obstacle courses.
Right.
We did like
that can be fun.
Dude, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning how to march. I was raised with a high respect for military.
Right.
Extreme high respect for military in our country and our flag. And so, you know, to me, this was really awesome.
So the learning that you're doing, are you kind of learning like the the basics of the Army. So, like, the Army's got a certain code. The Army's got certain, general orders.
Yes. Yes.
The Army's got, like, they teach you the structure of the chain of command.
Yes.
They teach you those things. So are they kind of teaching you those things?
Oh, absolutely. You start off, you go in as what they called a rat. You are a recruit at training. I can still remember the stinking chant, dude. I think it was like, you had to say sir, and you had to go through in order to move up in rank, to not be a rat and go to corporal.
Okay.
To get some, to get a stripe on your shoulder.
Right.
And not just be solid black bars.
Right.
You had to memorize this pamphlet of rules and stuff like that, and your room had to be inspected for like 2 weeks straight and be perfect. And, these guys would walk
uniform, press.
Oh, dude, you're talking your gig line perfect, your name tag, everything. Shine your shoes, man. If they couldn't see their teeth in the toe of your shoes, you didn't pass. If your breath didn't smell like beautiful, lovely crest and your hair wasn't, I'm telling you, dude, they were strict on us.
Okay.
And they needed to be. We were there for a reason.
Right.
But, it's like I said, it's funny. I think one of it was like, what was the chant? It was like Icer, Amser, Acer, Ratser, Icer, Amser, Lower, Sir, then, Sir, Acer, Kemper, Sir, Colonel, Sir, thank you, Sir. And Kemper was a rivalry military academy. So it's just like, they beat it in my head, clearly. Because I was reciting that in my sleep. So they're training us.
So you're talking about discipline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Discipline. Okay. Discipline.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, left my socks on the floor one night and ended up sitting in the thinking position for about 2 hours.
With a bucket on your head?
Yes, sir.
Like Gomer Pyle?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes. Yeah, my legs never hurt so bad in my life. But you know what I didn't do?
Didn't do that again.
I did never leave my socks on the floor again.
Didn't do that
That's
again.
for sure. I think I even went through the hallway and picked up other people's socks.
Nobody's going to go through this if I'm in the
right. But I succeeded there.
Right.
And I really did. Like, I didn't do so great. I still struggled with the schooling part. But it was like 4 hours a day of school, and then the rest of it was physical training, PT. And then they would do like little war game type things of like capture the flag. We would go out at dark and this, of course, was in a time before, don't hurt the children. This was when they were trying to make men of us.
Right.
And teach us some real good structure.
Sure.
And I thrived. I think when my parents came, I had gotten up to private, which was the highest you could get in that short time. Then I didn't even reach that until graduation day, because it was a 10-week program, which was run by ROTC guys who were getting ready to head out themselves into service, to head out to basic training. At least that's what I remember. And, it just so really succeeded, found out structure works for me, giving me the opportunity to do what I wanted was not good. I clearly was not good at making choices, of course, at 13 years old. I wanted to run around with girls.
So you said this was only a 10-week program. So it wasn't even a year long.
No, just 10 weeks. It was all summer. I didn't get a summer that year. This was the summer of 1996 or 97. I can't remember exactly. And I went home, and I remember going back to school. But at this point, they made the decision that maybe it was time for me to not be at mom's. Not that mom did a bad job, but that dad could really break his foot off where it needed to be broke off.
Right. So the discipline
That's right.
at home, right?
That's right.
So you're trying to implement similar things that you just learned in the academy.
Right.
To home life.
That's right.
So that we can continue this training.
Exactly.
So, I'm going to have to cut you off, man. We're getting close to that time.
It's a good stopping point.
It's a good stopping point.
Yeah,
so
that works for me.
We're at a point where, Dave, his eye situation, he had a lot going on. He grew up in church.
Yep.
Didn't really have any conflict because it's two different types of church and all that stuff, and had a really good childhood. His dad was taking him to the doctor, doing all that stuff.
Yep.
then his parents split up, and things started to get a little bit more rough, and so he ended up going to basically a JROTC program for 10 weeks to try and get things straightened out. So that's kind of where we're at in Dave's story. When we come back, I mean, I'm kind of interested to see what this next year kind of looked like.
It's not good.
It goes further down the, we would be disappointing you if we said it got better.
Yeah, no.
Right.
No.
So, yeah, man, this is a really, really good story so far, and I don't know what you're talking about, but you're doing just as good as I did.
Yeah, man, I think I've actually enjoyed your testimony, your story. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good that, see, now we had just spoken about brotherhood, and this is where they're required to build me up.
There you go.
So I'm just kidding.
I agree.
I appreciate it,
when
guys.
you were talking about picking up socks, I was thinking of brotherhood. I was like, see, he experienced that pain, and he's trying to help his brothers not experience that pain.
Exactly.
It was either trying to help my brothers or in absolute fear of my thighs feeling like they were going to burst through my skin.
Because you never know, and they'll take somebody else's socks and say, all right, now everybody's punished.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't on that wall alone.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, yeah, man, that's a great start, dude, and we're going to get back into it maybe next week.
Yeah, I think next week we'll hit another episode of it.
All right,
Cool.
so we'll do that, and I think that it's my turn to pray out today.
It is your turn.
And we'll kind of go from there. So,
all right, guys.
All right, Lord God, we thank you for another great testimony that we're starting to hear, God, and how great you've moved in Dave's life. And I just pray, God, that you continue to build us up with this story, and you continue to build Dave up as he tells this story, as he recollects things. God, just help him to remember what he has gone through so that he can help other people maybe that are struggling with similar things to kind of move past where they've been. And, you say in your word that you're no respecter of persons. And if you've done it for Dave, that you'll help somebody else move past their pain. And we just thank you, God, for the word of our testimony, Lord, that we can bring glory and honor to you. And we just praise you in Jesus' name for all of those things.
Amen and amen. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us again. We will be back in just a few days. Once again, I'm Dave Garza.
I'm Dave Schneider.
And I'm Clint Marker.
And we're just hoping you have a blessed week, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.